Yo, Melly Man, what's up? From BX to you a lady fam. It's your man, Wizzo. This is for the gangsters. Shout out to the gangsters. Postman posted with them gangsters. My homies be on gang time. All my homies throwing gang signs. I keep it real, I cannot fake mines. This is for the gangsters. Shout out to the gangsters. Postman posted with them gangsters. My homies be on gang time.
So who I'm here with today?
Man, you here with Slice, man. OG Slice.
OG Slice.
OG Slice.
Slice, where did you grow up, man?
I grew up with the Harlem Crips, man. 9th Ave and Jefferson.
9th Ave and Jefferson.
9th
What
Ave.
are some of the schools did you attend back then?
6th Ave, Mount Vernon, Dorsey, and John Muir.
You never went to Fauché?
My mama wouldn't let me go to Fauché.
What was right with Fauché?
All the Harlem Crips was at Fauché. From Big Phil, Bruce Fisher, everybody, Blackhead, all of them. My mom said, you ain't going over there.
So Fauché was off the table for
It was
you.
Harlem Crips.
Okay, so what year did you attend school? Let's see. So this is what I like to say, that I think that the middle school is where a lot of this stuff take place.
Correct.
Okay, so let's take off from right there.
All right, so I'm born and raised on 9th Ave and Jefferson between Exposition and 38th. And Jefferson on 6th Ave was elementary, 6th Ave Elementary. And that's where all the Harlem Crips went to, the school, some of the schoolyards went over there, some of the Black Peace Stones went over there. It was a lot going on at that elementary school right there. And that's the school I started at from preschool to kindergarten, all the way through the 6th grade.
Okay, so I want to back up just a little bit. So where did your parents, are they originally from here, or did they migrate here?
So my father, he from Chicago South Side. So he came from Chicago. My mom, she came from Galveston, Texas. And then they met up here in Los Angeles, California, and that's where they resided, right there on 9th Ave in Jefferson.
So on the west side.
On the west side.
Okay, so before we get going, let's have a moment of silence for that shirt you're wearing. We just like that. We just want to have a moment of silence for the Clippers, man. But we can speak the same for the Lakers, right?
That's why they didn't want the Clippers to get in it.
Okay, there we go. Good. So growing up in Harlem, what was that like for you?
For me, it was wonderful. I don't knock any other Crip sets, but I just think they originated with the Harlem Crips, and I'll say why. Because every Friday night on Jefferson and Crenshaw, there's a Burger King. And all the lowriders, I don't care where you was from, you ended up at that Burger King lowride back in the early 70s on Crenshaw and Jefferson at that Burger King.
I remember Burger King.
All the lowriders was there, and there was no problem, no static. So
Great. I remember when, who was that, Jay Clayton and all of them used to be up there. White Boy Eric, the Parker brothers out of Con, Parker boys, and some of my homies as well. Yeah, we all used to come up to Burger King because Burger King was
that was the original spot, and it's still there.
It's still there?
It's still there.
Okay. So who were some of the guys that might have had some type of influence, or that you saw like, wait a minute, man, I like how this dude get down, man, let me get a little closer? Was there anybody that stood out to you from that area that you might have had to just...
Yeah, it was a lot. Dennis Johnson, Big Forehead, my guy Blackhead, Kevin Samples, Glenn, Darren, Anthony Mothershed, Big Phil, definitely Big Phil, man. That was my dude, man. He used to drive that green four-door Bel Air, and I think it was a 55 or a 54, and he just was swole. But a lot of those dudes over there, when I was a Cheetah, his older brother Sonny and George, a lot of those dudes that I grew up with, it's kind of like it was a family thing, like our parents knew each other. So we all went to 6th Ave, Todd Bridges, before he got on Different Strokes, his sister Verter. All of them used to be all over there. The Averys, Johnny Avery, his brother Steve Avery, Jimmy Hornsby, all these was actors. And Judge Joe Brown, you see him all the time.
Judge Joe Brown came out.
Oh, man, he from Harlem Crip, man. Judge Joe Brown.
Not gangster Judge Joe
Judge
Brown.
Joe Brown, the Harlem Crip, man.
Man, that's interesting.
He's a Harlem
Because he
Crip.
talk like he from our neck of the woods. The way he be getting at folks.
Hey, man, he'll tell you, man, Ike Turner, Tina, they all used to come through the school, Tom Bradley. What it was is that right there, I guess, was the center. I don't know why. It just happened to be the center of everything because Tom Bradley used to be at 6th Ave all the time. Judge Joe Brown, like I said, he'll tell you about Boys Market growing up over there because it was right by Baldwin Hills. So you hit the train tracks, you go down the train tracks, you at Dorsey High School. So that was a connection between the Jungles and the Harlem. So I don't know why we ended up warring against them because we all went to school together and got down together, but that's a whole nother story.
I think that's what happened to most of us in the gangbang era because now you got a group of kids coming from this side of the boulevard versus this side. So the ones on this side, they know all each other and you know of these guys, but then you want to, we seem to make a difference. You know what I mean? Like difference mean less than. It doesn't mean that. It just means that it's different. And you probably just need to understand, versus trying to get into it. But man, that's interesting that you say that. So Big Phil, right? Mm-hmm. Dennis Johnson, right? They probably some of the two most notable. Or would you put them at the top of the food chain?
They're at the top, but it's so many like Bruce Fisher. It's all kind of dudes you can name. They escape me, but if they see me, they'll probably put me in the head like, man, why you didn't mention me? You know I raised you. So it's so many of them dudes. Because let me show you, the Harlems ran from Crenshaw all the way down to like Western. Mm-hmm. And then back from Western and Jefferson all the way to, back then it was Santa Barbara. Now it's Martin Luther King, but back then it was Santa Barbara Boulevard. So Santa Barbara and then back down to Crenshaw. So Audubon covered that area. So a lot of the dudes from the Jungles, they covered Audubon, but then that was a Harlem Crips school and Black P. Stone. So that was the only school that split between the Black P. Stones and the Harlem Crips was Audubon Junior High School. And then you start going towards the 40s, and then you had the 40s and the 60s who all came together. So, and that would have been Crenshaw High School.
So how did you use that upbringing, right, and everything that you attained from watching DJ, Phil, and I forget the other guy that
Sonny
and all that.
Forehead, all of them.
Forehead. How did you utilize those experiences to evolve and sort of like, wait a minute, let me start moving in this direction? Because a lot of us took those skills and transferred them into the game. I'm saying the so-called game of life. I'm talking about being true to the game when you start getting that money. Because you was a money guy as well, right?
Right. And
we also want to visit who was those guys that you was, that you deem as should be mentioned in this sequence as far as on top of the food chain.
Well, how I got into the money game, because like nowadays kids are kids. They're not outside. They want to stay in. The parents are scared of the kids, so they pretty much let them raise them instead of, when I was coming up, the parents raised us. And my mom, fortunately for her, she's no longer with us, but I really appreciate how she allowed me to get out the house and stay out the house. Like, I could be out the house and be in everybody's area, everybody's block. I was cutting grass. I was, we had paper routes, ride the bike, throw the paper away, paper, whatever. The Herald Examiner, she allowed me to do things like that back when I was coming up. I didn't have to worry about my mom looking out for me or being after me. She knew I had a lawnmower, a rake, and an edger. So I was coming in with $200 a day, easy for me. And I was only like 8 or 9 years old. I was driving at 10. So I was still in my mom's car at 10. So we was like some bad kids back then, man. We was hitting up the liquor stores. We had this hustle called the Blue Chip Stamp Books.
Tell me about it.
The Blue Chip Stamp Books, where you had to have like, I think it was 5 or 6 stamps down here, or you had to have a little small stamps, but they had to cover the whole page. And the book was only like so big, a little brown book. You get them from the Boys Market or different markets, but you get the stamps every time you made a purchase of groceries. So you grab that, you stamp it up. So we had an Asian boy. He was beating us out of the books, but we didn't care because we was kids, and he would give us $1 for each completed book. So we go to the alley to the little Asian guy, because back then, Asians and blacks somehow we were getting along okay, and that was the hustle. You go to the Asian guy, he peel you off, but not what you was worth, what he wanted to give you. So $1 for one blue chip stamp book completed. We was having money on that type of on that scale. So everything was a hustle for us. We had bottles before it was cans, so we go in and trade the bottles in. That was 25 cents or 30 cents for the tall Coke bottles or whatever. So it's getting money that kind of way.
And the mother prides.
Oh man, I forgot all about that. Man. But my hustle was the blue chip stamp books, and we was grabbing and snatching everything we could, man.
Those were wonderful times, Slice. I mean, that time right there was excellent.
It allowed us to grow up faster than what we wanted to grow up with, because we started off with Big Jims and G.I. Joes and Barbie dolls, but we got out of that real fast. Like, we didn't have PlayStations and this internet access or whatever. We had to be outside. We had to be in the trees, eating the fruits off the trees, drinking out of the water hoses, and doing things we needed to do. If you fell down and you could have had a sprung ankle or whatever, you was not going in the house for nothing. Because your mom said, you come in, you got to stay in. So we had to work it out there. We was instant doctors, like, come here, Ed, just put it like this, put it like that. We kids. We just did not go back in the house for nothing.
Did you also strip down the basket and make go-karts? Remember,
you
put the 2x4 up front?
Man, we took the wheels off the baskets, and we made some wood go-karts and nail them in, boom, boom. You get like a half a block down, and it butterflied, it came off. You hammer it back in, you roll it. See, the kids, they don't have that technology we had back then as kids. And we were self-taught. We taught ourselves, and we just covered pretty much our area, because back then you got to realize the police, it was always police corruption, but the police could come down the street and they would have gifts for you. They'd give you some telephone books, play football with you in the middle of the street. It wasn't as bad as it is today. You don't have that kind of relationship. But when we was kids, man, it was so much fun, man, because the older homies, the guys, they showed us, because they were called the Harlem Godfathers when I was coming up. And they would show us how to shoot dice. They show you how to shoot dice, and they show you how to get the money before the dice stop rolling, snatch the money, run. I mean, they just showed us a lot of tricks. So up under the Harlem Godfathers, man, they showed us how to do a lot of stuff. Snatch jewelry, because we had a pawn shop. It's still there. It's on Arlington and Jefferson, and we can go in there and snatch some stuff as kids. We little kids, and they go in there. They be talking. And they show them the piece. We grab a piece and run out real fast. So it was just a lot for me as growing up as a young man. I never went back in the house, man, without $100 or $200 in my pocket. I never told my mother what I had.
So let me ask you this question. What made the difference between Dinker Park, 39th Street, and Harlem Godfathers? How did that seemed like, if not three different cliques, but three different sides? How is that explained?
Well, see, Dinker Park, that was Bruce Fisher in them area. Bruce, Bobby, and all of them, they was up there to Dinker Park. So this is how it is. The Harlems was the Avenues. They were the Avenue Crips. And they went through 3 to 4 different name changes. First, they was the Rolling 30s, the Dirty 30s, the Harlems, and the Dirt Gang now, I guess. But they kept renaming themselves. Well, Dinker Park just stayed Dinker Park. And they controlled the Fauché area, because Fauché is in that area right there. But it all came together because Wanitty was through the Avenues in Dinker Park. So Wanitty, he had some type of restaurant or something up there, or food place up there by Jack's on Western, Jack's breakfast spot. So Wanitty was the linchpin bringing it all together. Wanitty, Tony Jakes is from that area. Greco, his brother. But yeah, that would have probably been Wanitty if I could remember. Wanitty, Forehead. But all of them was grouped up. They never was fighting. There never was no in-house fighting. It was just like we Harlems. Whether it's Dinker Park or the Avenues, it still was all together.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's talk about Big James Miller, the Brim Killer. How did that part come about? Because I don't know how they gave him that name. You know what I mean? I never did know that. And if you can tell me, that's fine. But I just was always, there was always a mystique about Big James Miller. Did you ever know him or did you hear about it?
I heard about him.
Okay.
I heard about him.
Uh-huh.
And what I heard was he wasn't nobody to play with. That's what I heard. I heard he was, but then my boy Black Ed was like that, and I was in the sandbox with him. I didn't know he was like that. He got 3 bodies on him, and I talked to him maybe 5-6 months ago, and I didn't even know that. He told me, he's like, yeah, man. I was like, well, we got to get you out of there. He was like, man, I got 3. I said, 3? I was there when it happened at Dorsey in 84. He said, man, well, what happened was when it all went down, because I was outside talking to him, and we was playing, I played on the varsity basketball team at Dorsey. And so Ed was like, he was like, man, go into school and take Bridget. That's Bridget Meadows. He said, take Bridget and Jackie in there with you. I was like, what's up? He said, just go into school. I said, all right, cool. So we going to school, and I'm watching the JV game. All of a sudden, my boy Derek Nellon's coming there. He said, man, Ernest just got shot. I'm like, Ernest? I went to Mount Vernon with Ernest. He ain't no game banger. He's a baseball player. He said, yeah, a bullet hit him, though, but he's going to be all right. Coach Bell and Coach Knox said he's going to be all right. I'm like, all right, cool. The next day he died, and I'm like, oh, no, man. I'm like, man, I hope they catch the dude that did that, man. That Ernest was my partner. Come to find out, it was Black Ed. And I was like, nah. But the dudes from the jungles came down and started shooting. And they started shooting, and I guess Ed was trying to defend himself, so he started giving it back to him, and ended up, that day, caught 3 bodies. And same thing with James Miller. I don't have all the details on his stories, but I can tell you like this. I knew the Brims, and the Brims is like family to me. All of them over there. Terry Godot, Rock the Bells, all of them is my guys, man. Merle, all them dudes over there, man. Killer Kirkton Moore. He just got off of death row. He ended up killing one of the police officers because he went over there to give it to the Rolling 60. So he dropped 2 of them, but then there was some police over there in the unmarked Camaro, and he gave it to them, but they was police. So he killed one police and injured the other police. So he ended up on death row. But Kirkton Moore, yeah. So, but this boy, man, James, the Brim killer, man, he clashed with them dudes. I think it started at Manual Arts. I think, from what I heard, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, they say that the name Harlem came because James bought it, and I don't know how true this is, that he bought it from New York to California. I don't know how true that is.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But remember what I told you, it's rolling 30s first.
Yes.
So it was rolling. It was the rolling 30s.
Okay.
The next thing I know, you had the rolling 60s. So the Harlems didn't want to be identified with no other set. So y'all want to use rolling 60s? We're going to go to the Harlems. So it flipped like that.
Okay, good. Well, we're going to go ahead and lock the door right there. Let's lock it.
Okay.
Lock the door.
Look, keep it moving.